Hello and welcome to the Panoptic Gamers podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Aaron, and I'm here with my co-host, Chris Verone. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I'm ready to talk about some interesting stuff today. Are you?
Sure, got some
Yeah.
stuff to talk about.
All right. So today we'll be talking about space engineers and some open-ended games.
Open world, I'd say, not open-ended.
Open
I guess you could
world.
say open-ended.
Okay. Elaborate for me, please.
On open world.
Yeah. What's the difference, anyways?
Well, I'd say open-ended and open world. Open-ended implies more of a storyline that just kind of ends, I guess, and you're left to decide on how it goes. I don't know. That's almost like something like Fable would be, because that storyline, it continues and continues. You beat a boss, and then you can just do whatever you want after that. It doesn't quite end, but there's no more story to tell. Open world, I would say, is more of a sandboxing, where you are just given an environment, you're given rules, and you are left to do what you want,
Okay,
do
that's
whatever
that's,
you want.
that's fair. So I know that you wanted to talk about some space engineers, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
yeah.
I
been
I
con-
haven't played it yet. I haven't bought it. I haven't played it yet. I know it's still in early development. I think it's in alpha, right?
it's in early access, yeah. The game has been in early access for, I don't know, I think about a year now, and it's come a long way, I would say. I started playing it, I'd say, a few months back. I just kind of delved into it. I got into my own single player world, and I just disappeared from the world and came out with a giant light carrier spacecraft that would hold about 5 or 6 small ships, and it was like that was only in creative mode, and it was just very addictive that way. And then I kind of dropped it for a while, and then I've just picked it back up because survival mode has come out.
Okay. So what's different in survival mode? Is it just more dangerous? Uh, throw me into the world as you see it, as you experience it.
Well, okay, so um, you would compare this game, I guess, closest to Minecraft, where you are just kind of thrown into a world where you land on this little basic platform, and you're this little guy in a spacesuit, and there's just space and asteroids around you. And so from there, you're given like the basic things that you need to survive.
So is there like a story to it?
No story whatsoever. You're just in space. You kind of create your own story if you want. Like they have like maps right now, like crash spaceship, and so you basically have this spaceship that's crashed into an asteroid, and it's like you're the only survivor or something like that. You can make up or whatever, and you basically just kind of start repairing the spaceship if you want. Depending on what you set up for the game, you would have like the environment could be hostile in some ways. Like it would have asteroid showers that would shower the area, and you'd have to somehow like build up defenses to stop it from destroying the spaceship more and ruining your life and
Okay.
so forth.
All right. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Let's just kind of set you up a scenario right now. So it started this time where I had one of my friends, Ben, set up in a server, and what we did was we started the game and just really didn't know anything. And we eventually found out that as time progresses, you slowly lose suit energy, so you would have to constantly recharge at a station or some sort of cockpit with power, or otherwise you would just die and suffocate, and then that would be the end of you.
So do you get power from like solar panels and shit like that?
You can get power from solar panels, and you can get power from reactors, and then those would power devices that would allow you to recharge your suit. So you start off with the game like where you have a small reactor on a platform with a station that can charge you up, and there is a very small amount of uranium that is inside this reactor. So you have about a limited amount of time before you would run out of power. So you would have to go into the asteroid, mine minerals, and refine those minerals, and then those minerals would be assembled into pieces, and those pieces would then be assembled into actual chunks of physical things that you could place into the world.
Okay.
All right. So one of the cool things about space engineers is that you have a very limited inventory where you can only fit so much of a volume of materials into your backpack yourself. So what I found out was that like in order to place an item, you need like one object. There's like a base material that you need for every object that you would want to build. And when you place that base material down, it would create a wireframe of like a steel wireframe of that object that you want to create. And then what you'd have to do is you'd have to weld it, and then create. It would slowly become the object that you are creating. So, for instance, if you created a reactor, you would start off with steel plates, and you would need reactor components and computer components and so forth. And so, as you weld it, these materials get placed into the object, and then you can see a progress bar as you continue to weld it until you have used all the materials it needs, or you've used all the materials in your inventory that you currently have, and you can't use any more, or there isn't enough components left to finish the object. And this led to the discovery that you run out of material very fast if you're trying to create anything big, and you'd have to constantly make trips back and forth. So one thing that led to another, where I discovered that you'd have to make small ships, and you create the small ship. It would take you, I don't know. It was my baby when I first created this ship. So I put everything into it. I made it a cool design and tried to make it work as best as possible and put in armor and stuff on it. And once I finally finished that, the ship was like a drilling ship, and I designed it in such a way where I'd have conveyors go into a small cargo bay, and then the cargo bay would be attached to a merging tube, which would allow you to dock to like other objects. So you could dock to large ships that had the same component, or a station that had the same component. So what I could do was I could mine with the ship, which would suck all the components that you mined into the cargo bay, and then you could then take a full load and dock it onto the station, where you could place the objects from your cargo bay into your refinery, and it would start building and refining much larger quantities of material that you could possibly do on your own.
So when you mine something, it doesn't like automatically go into a like a backpack or like a storage container. You have to like transport it with conveyor belts.
Well, so conveyor belts are like, so what would happen with this is that if you mine something without a conveyor belt, it would go directly into the container that is like comes with like, say, your drilling device. If you're an engineer yourself and you use the only little hand drill you have, what would happen is that it would just like spawn little rock pellets of that kind of material that you could pick up manually, but they would not go automatically into your inventory.
Oh.
So it was a very slow process when you were manually drilling. When you drill from your small ship, it would go into your drill. And then the problem with that is that you couldn't take anything. You could only take. There's only like you'd have to access directly your drill from your like by getting out of your ship and then like accessing the inventory from the drill with your as an engineer outside of the ship. There is no way to move it around. So what would happen is if you use conveyor belts to hook up components to each other, they would be able to transfer objects back and forth between each other.
Oh, okay. So they kind of like work like pipes, right?
Yeah, they're pretty much like pipes. So you'd have a conveyor belt that would hook up to your cargo bay, from your drill to your cargo bay, and then material would automatically transfer to your cargo bay. And then you could have your cargo bay attached to a merge module, so that when you hooked up your merge module to another merge module, you would be able to transfer material between those two objects. And that's kind of how docking works in the game.
Okay.
So that led to we once we had drilling ships, we actually had actually a pretty large amount of material. Though we constantly ran out as we found out that even having this large amount of material, building was quite a problem because we couldn't again just build with our own like with the little manual welder that the engineer was given. You what we found out is that you could also build a small ship that had a welding device on it, and you could also build a small ship that had a grinding device on it. And these were basically larger versions of the minuscule version that you started the game with.
Okay.
So you kind of scale up your your productivity and your economy and everything through devices, of your own creation.
So it's more like a self-made tier system of devices.
Yeah, pretty much. I
Okay.
mean
This is not like
that's
a it's not like a set it's not like a set tier that you reach and then okay now you have a second level of items that you can make that do better jobs and can hold more or whatever. But
no, it's
it's your own thing, so you can make it as grandiose as you want, right?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So like
That's pretty cool.
you could hook up multiple cargo bays to this small ship and you could create this gigantic like storage system on it and whatever. And then you'd have to engineer more thrusters because the mass would be larger, and if you didn't have enough thrusters, you would have a very unwieldy ship. You also had to design it in such a way where you'd have thrusters on every side of the ship so that way you could strafe left and right and up and down and
Right.
forward and backwards.
So it seems like Space Engineers is pretty open-ended as far as the game is concerned. With not even a set tier system or a set goal system for that matter, other
Yeah,
than survival.
yeah, apparently, well, like survival is a very like lightly limited like kind of a loose term. A loose term is what you'd want to use. Um, it's more of like the fact that right now in survival is everything is resource based. Before creative mode was you could just build anything you wanted on the fly. You didn't have to worry about resources. You didn't have to worry about collecting the correct components or drilling asteroids or anything like that. Now you have to be able to collect these resources. You have to be able to process these resources. You have to be able to do all of these things. And what it is like if you only have one refinery, it's very slow process to just refine all of these minerals that you collect. And if you only, so then you'd want to build like more refineries, and then you'd want to hook them up to a system. So, and then like you'd also want to build assembly units and so forth.
Okay.
Um,
So where do you see this game developing into?
so right now they just recently implemented factions, which gives you player ownership, and you can also have shareability between factions and everyone. So this will give like people like in open world servers like some sort of like ownership of the items that they've created, and it'll also help like kind of put a competition on opposing factions. Um,
Okay. Like red team, blue team, green team, yellow team.
Yeah, it's like that, but they set it up in sort of a clan system where you would be part of a name and you'd have public info and members and so forth, and there would be somebody over. It's almost kind of like a very quick implementation of a guild on a server where anyone can create their own faction and so forth. But
Oh, so it's not like a pre-named faction. It's you can name your faction Zippity Doo Dah
yes,
clan or whatever.
yep,
All
you can
right.
name it Zippity Doo Dah Clan,
Yep. I think that should be your or unicorn furnace.
Unicorn Furnace.
Yep. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Do you see any like mod support for the game at all?
I haven't seen or looked into any mod support, but I have seen some pretty amazing creations. Like some guy had created a full like 1-to-1 scale model of like a Warhammer 40K I'm not sure what those ships are called, but the
I think they're called. I could be completely wrong, but they might be called like dreadnoughts or something like that.
I believe it's dreadnoughts, but or planet crackers or something to that effect.
Yeah.
But yeah, and and such like the detail that can go into some of these things, even though there's a limited amount of objects, people get really creative with using them. Um,
Have you seen a USS Enterprise at all?
I have not seen a USS Enterprise, but the game does not do circles very well either. It is more of a very block and like you can um, chamfer, like you have chamfered blocks as well. So you can have like a diagonal or a triangle that can like you that can fit into the corners very well. So you get kind of like a hexagonal shapes at the most if you want to be the most smooth.
I see.
But I mean, at a large scale, it can look really cool. If you the larger the ship goes, it feels like there's more detail.
Yeah, I imagine like a scale model of the Enterprise would be pretty well done.
Yeah, I mean, in space engineers, a model scale of the Enterprise would be really big, I would say, because I mean, you're talking about one floor being like it would probably have to be like three large blocks, and that's like three times the height of your guy. So you would have probably I don't even know how many floors the USS Enterprise is, but
It's a lot. They have blueprints on the internet.
yeah, a scale model of the USS Enterprise would probably break that game.
It would be pretty sweet though.
Too many polygons.
So many Jeffries tubes. Oh man,
They have kind of a Jeffries tube kind of thing. They have passageways, and they could be put up vertically, and they'd look exactly like Jeffries tubes.
that's pretty cool.
But yeah, like I imagine the game would get to the point where like you'd have just like a community server, and like you'd have established factions on that server, and then basically what would happen is these factions would they have automated turrets, so the turrets that they would set up, as long as they were supplied with ammo, would be able to like just auto attack anybody who's not in their faction. So anybody wandering around the server trying to troll would just fail because they would just get destroyed by automated server turrets.
Does it is the game in Java like Minecraft is?
I don't know. I don't think so because I know that it's in 64-bit.
Okay, but they haven't like released the code to the game that I mean we you mentioned earlier that they really haven't opened it up as like a modding community or anything like that, right? So
It's
I'm
more.
guessing that it's not open sourced code for the game.
I don't believe it's open source, but it's more that I haven't looked into a modding, like the modding universe for space engineers.
Oh, okay. I'm sure I feel like they would want to open it up to that because I mean with such an open world game, people are gonna get bored of it really quickly if they can't do anything with it, you know?
Yeah, and I believe actually there should be some modding. I'm almost certain that there will be if there isn't already. And a quick Google search has just brought up some mods already.
Oh, okay.
And to anybody who is listening to this podcast and is interested in space engineers, I do suggest that you look into Skybox, I believe it's called. Yeah, Skybox. Just Google Space Engineers Skybox. This is a basically a very simple thing. In the game, there is a background, and it's essentially just stars and more asteroids, and it makes for a very black and white environment. And so, if anybody's looking for some really cool backgrounds to add or change, you should check out Skybox because they offer some really awesome backgrounds to add just some more ambiance to the game and make it seem like, like you could be like over an asteroid and then you just in the distance is just this giant planet Earth and then like a horizon of space and you just feel like you're just flying over Earth the whole time you're working. Or there's even like a home world.
So you could even put like nebulas and stuff behind it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It depends on what they've created. They have a whole load of options. Like a whole it's like going over this place it's skybox.zalen.com and it's basically like there's a Death Star one, so you just see the Death Star being constructed in the background.
That's pretty cool.
There's a storm planet where it's like there's this planet, there's a sun just rising above it, and you just see this giant swirly cloud in the atmosphere. There is a nebula one. There's one for showing just a giant picture of the moon and shit.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah,
Awesome.
and so yeah, it kind of leads me to my other I wanted to talk about today. The other topic I wanted to talk about, which was what kind of makes value, what is valuable in a game. Why are things valuable and why are they fun and what is that compulsion?
Okay.
Um, so like let me throw out a scenario, Jeff.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
played
definitely.
Minecraft,
I have
right?
played many a Minecraft.
And you've played we've both played the FTP mod, and in that mod there's like you have
Feed the Beast,
created,
right?
yes, Feed the Beast,
Yeah. Okay.
FTB. You've gone and explored many tech trees, and you've spent hours creating these devices and doing these systems.
Yes.
Yes. What would happen if somebody just came in and just took your device out?
Well, I'd be pretty mad.
You'd be very upset.
That's one of the reasons why I hate creepers so much. They
So
are the bane of my existence in the game, of course.
and that is the whole draw to this is you've invested so much time in creating these devices that they create their own value.
Well, I think the value is tied into the time spent, you know,
Exactly. You've
because
invested.
if you spend like 5 minutes crafting a wooden sword or a stone axe, I'm not gonna care if a creeper blows me up and kills me and I lose it.
Exactly.
But if I spend like 10 hours on an awesome sweet house, and I'm talking sweet house, that I spent that long putting together, I don't want no creeper coming into my house and just destroying everything.
And so what do? You start developing like a way to like defend against this. You want to defend your house from this possibility. You just
Yeah,
you want everything to be safe.
I come up with like defense measures, like a moat or some sort of creeper destruction unit. I don't know.
It's creeper destruction unit.
I
Yeah.
put little TNT landmines around my house and then have them walk over it if they come over to my house.
Yeah, I mean, like when Minecraft created pistons for the game, and that was a game changer for me because I was like, oh my God, now I can create like moving objects in the game.
Right.
And I put two and two together. I found because after I figured out, cobblestone generator plus pistons equal infinite cobblestone and moving cobblestone, I spent hours creating regenerating castle walls so that if anything happened to my castle, it would just build itself up again.
That's pretty sweet.
And yeah, but the point is like it's the amount of games are these days are actually drawing a lot of like investment because they are forcing you to spend time to get items. You know, a lot of games these days, like AAA titles, they aren't doing that anymore. Like if you do a AAA title, like what would you say?
Like Oblivion or like are we talking
I
open world or talking like any game?
Any game right now. Okay, let's start with Titanfall.
Okay.
Titanfall is a AAA title. Now,
Yes.
Titanfall is actually a very well done game. I will give it that. It is pristine. It is very smooth, but it is just instant gratification.
Right.
Instantly, it just jumps you right into the fight. You do all this cool stuff, and then like 2 hours later, you're like, well, this is it. This is all there is to it. I've done this and it tells me that I'm awesome and I've had a great time, but now there's no more appeal because I'm just repeating myself.
So I think I see where you're going with that, and I can see exactly how AAA games usually remedy this. And what they'll do is they'll have unlockable items or achievements in the game, and that will supplement that need for newer content.
It's true, but it's gimmicky. It doesn't work as well.
Oh,
I
of
mean,
course it is.
it's basically
But that's the
it's a
only thing that they
band-aid.
have.
It's a hack. It's something that like I mean, not even sure. You can't quote me on it, but I would say that World of Warcraft was one of the first types of games to start implementing achievements, and it just kind of took off from there. Once World of Warcraft started doing it, then Xbox was like achievements everywhere.
No,
Every game will have achievements.
I'm pretty sure that the achievements came after Xbox and PlayStation did their achievement system, because I know that PlayStation had like a trophy system,
Okay.
and then I don't remember which came first, whether it was PlayStation or Xbox, but they definitely had their achievements down first,
Okay.
and then other games started taking to it.
Yeah.
I know there's been even a few parody games about achievements. I know that there's a game on Steam, I think, called Achievement Get or DLC Quest or something like that, and all it is you just getting achievements, and
There
everything that you do in the game grants you an achievement. Like if you move left, you get an achievement for moving left.
yeah, DLC Quest. I played
Yeah,
that.
it's a fun game, and obviously it's a parody of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I can definitely see, yeah, that it's something worth parodying because it's kind of a quick remedy to the fact that titles like that spend all their time on maybe graphics or just play style, but after a while, if it doesn't get if there's nothing new to it, then it just gets stale very
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah. I love to call them fluffy bunny points because it's like you have a bunny, and every time you achieve a new thing, your bunny gets fluffier, but it's already fluffy. You can't feel any different. It just maybe it's a little poofier, just maybe. And sure, it'll just get poofy as hell, but it doesn't accomplish anything really.
It does add some competitive level to the game, only because you can say, "Hey, my fluffy bunny is fluffier than your fluffy bunny."
It's so fluffy,
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah, but it's not a I would say a sustainable trick. Whereas when you're getting into like games like so there's this kind of game where you have Titanfall where they implement, they do what they do is they implement a ranking system where basically where they do this in almost every game, like Call of Duty, any FPS game, where you unlock all the achievements, and then it's like, let's reset you back to zero, but we're gonna give you a big little like emblem that says you're a second generation or you're a badass, and like you've started over again,
Right.
you
Well, I
know.
mean, they have like different seasons and like different PvP kind of games like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically, it's just trying to play off of what it's already doing, and it's just trying to it's trying to make you more competitive with each other because it's letting you show off how much you've played and how well you're doing it.
Yeah.
But it's not actually progressing you in any way. You're still
And
doing the same thing.
you know what I find interesting too is that when when a game implements something like that where you can have unlockables, they end up putting more effort and time into updating the game and adding more unlockables rather than changing anything within the game itself. Apart from fixing bugs and such.
Yeah. So the next level of like kind of games that allow you to progress, I guess, is MMORPGs. I have a love-hate relationship with these games. You know, they have this. They provide a lot of these addictive qualities, like you've leveled up, your character gets better, your stats get better, and you unlock more abilities as you go on. But ultimately, the abilities are just more pretty lights,
Yeah.
or they're
Well, the thing is, I mean, with an RPG, you create a character, and that persona that you create, you tend to gravitate towards. And when you
yeah,
do that, you become very attached to that character. So, so if you're progressing through, World of Warcraft or something, and you get achievements for that character, that's essentially your character. You are that character. So, for all intents and purposes.
yep.
So when you progress, you are progressing, you know, you. So, I mean, I don't know that that would be any worse or better than, say, an account on Call of Duty because I mean, sure, you're kind of like this faceless dude that's just going around shooting and in Titanfall getting into robots.
Yeah.
You don't really have that kind of role playing aspect to it, that persona you've tied to it. And
So
it's like when you name something, you give it substance, you know?
mhm. Well, Call of Duty, I mean, not Call of Duty, I'm sorry. Uh, Games like World of Warcraft and WildStar right now give you the idea of identifying with that character for one thing, investing time in that character and letting you progress through it. So, one thing that RPGs do is that time invested makes you a better character. You do more things, you eventually become a better character. You are not the same as somebody who just started 5 minutes ago,
Right.
you know? So there's a system of inequality that allows you to invest more time, makes you progress and become higher up on the chain. Um, but a lot of this game, but the other side effect of this game is time spent on the game is the only way to progress on it. You have to spend time on it. You have to accomplish these tasks, and then you'll be rewarded for it. But it's all very rule based. Like you can't, you know, think of something. You can't really go much farther outside the rules of the game. You're very confined to you have to use your abilities. You have to kill, 15,000 boars in the woods to get this and to level up. And there's not many options. There's only variations of how to do it. You can kill boars or you can kill golems. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um, so, and people will argue with me about this that it's much more complex, and yes, it is much more complex, and I am generalizing, but I'm trying to draw my point to finally what came out is like the Minecraft genre, and I want to call it the Minecraft genre because it is, or the crafting genre. I'm gonna call it the crafting genre, and that is where you don't have any innate abilities. The system does not award you for doing something. You reward yourself through your own ingenuity. You figure out that the rules of the game say you can do this, this, and this. All right, so by those rules, I'm going to create this object that's going to improve my life, or I'm going to do this, and then I can get this item and craft it, and then I suddenly have the ability to use a bow and arrow. But you're not limited through experience. You're limited through resources and objects. And this is much more of a correlation to real life than it is to a correlation to a fantasy world.
True.
So I mean, like the point of it is that the time invested in a crafting game is that you've invested all this time to create something and suddenly that's just amazing. Like that's always there for you until it gets destroyed, and then you've lost everything again, though. But you still have the knowledge to make it. You know, Everything you've created something through your own intelligence. I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know in Minecraft when you do something, huge, when you create uh, an oven that can, cook faster or something like that, then it definitely holds weight, and it definitely improves your ability to do things in the game much faster, which will allow you to progress further. And I know that the ability to use add-ons and mods just add to that fuel the flames like gasoline, because then
Yes.
you can essentially create your own devices. I mean, there's a mod out there that gives you a power suit, and that allows you to run super fast based on how much energy it has, or allows you to jump higher, or allows you to glide, and it allows you to
Let's.
travel a lot better, allows you to gather things a lot faster. It allows you to essentially work to that next tier of existence in the game. And I know
Yeah.
that a lot of that stuff can feel overpowered and almost God mode. Like you might as well be in creative mode, but at the same time, it's something to work towards. It's something to better your life in that game and to improve your playstyle.
Yeah, so that brings up a finally like the kind of the downfall of crafting games right now is that the game will start you off in an environment that is actually very challenging to live in with nothing. You know, you start off and you have to survive, and that's really cool and all. But, once you do that, the game doesn't get harder, you know.
Yeah, it
You
doesn't scale with you.
it doesn't scale with you. The game is just generating a world for you, and yes, you can certain like Minecraft. You can go into harder areas, like you can venture into the Nether, but ultimately you end up creating your own little base or fortress or house or little utopia, and you're safe there, and you can always wander back and run back to your place. There's never After a while with crafting games, you've become master of your world, and suddenly that it just stops becoming interesting.
Yeah,
And that's what happens with right now that I'm really concerned with this crafting games is that you reach that point, and really the only competition is another human being. But the thing about that is, in a crafting game right now, it's very hard to work out a balanced system where you can actively troll and it actually feels like it's a challenge, like you can actually defend against trolling because the ability to destroy and create any block in the environment allows almost everyone to just get around any sort of trap that you've devised. And it's really just a battle of wits, but most of the time it's much more effort to create a trap than it is to avoid a trap or avoid a defense.
yeah, yeah. And also the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty that comes into play when you're say playing against another player in something like Minecraft, because you don't know if they're gonna come at you with like a prank that's gonna like drop you into a pit of fire instead of opening a door, or you don't know if it's gonna be like a whole bunch of turrets that are just gonna pop up and shoot you down. You don't know what's around the corner, and that can kind of throw you off when you're trying to defend yourself because you don't know what to defend yourself against.
Yeah. Oh, a great. So another segue. Daisy is a different sort of game altogether, but still an open world game. In this case, you don't actually have control over your environment, but you are in a first person. You're in a first person mode, and you're pretty much trying to play a game of survival where you have no trust over anybody else in the game. And in fact, another player in the game is one of the more scarier things to encounter.
Yeah, they're pretty much worse than the zombies themselves.
No, they are worse than the zombies themselves.
Yeah, because you zombies don't shoot you, players do. At any moment, you could just be gunned down
Yep,
over a
very true.
can of beans.
Can of
In fact,
beans.
they don't even know what you have. You could just have a flashlight, and they'll just gun you down and be like, "Well, yeah, I guess you didn't have anything. On to the next person." Oh well,
Oh, he had a hat.
nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we can definitely continue this on another show. There's plenty to talk about. I know that DayZ can we can talk about DayZ itself and that kind of world.
Yeah.
So I think now is a good wrapping up point. So this has been Jeff Aaron and Christopher Roan, and we are the Panoptic Gamers.
Take it easy.